by your abilities and ID 2020. Facial recognition. Selling coke and dope ain't the business. Nope. Forget trapping and wit and ball the business. Yep. True peace, Ken. It's May 5th, 2020. And if you trying to stay ahead of the game, guess what? You will peep the slang. And I'm back at y'all with another one for sure. And to say how off-grid, lights-out cell sites will aid the effort to bring the next billion people online. Rural connectivity has always been a headache for service providers expanding their networks. Smaller and more spread out communities by their nature require more investment in infrastructure for fewer customers and smaller returns. Lighting up a street of apartment buildings in a major city can bring in dozens, if not hundreds, of new customers with just one fiber cable. For example, while miles of cables might be needed for each new customer in a sparsely populated area, this problem is true for many places in Africa where a higher percentage of the population is rural. Connecting the people in those regions has been tough task to date. In an effort to change that, Clear Blue Technologies, a Canadian company developing off-grid power systems, will be working with South African provider MTN and others to roll out 500 new off-grid, no-maintenance 2G and 3G cell towers in Africa. The 3.5 million CAD contract is the first step to a 3 to 5 program to expand cellular networks in a dozen countries in a way that's suited to much of Africa's large size and rural demographics. What's unique about Africa, says Myron Turk, the CEO of Clear Blue, is the pent-up demand. People there have smartphones, but they don't necessarily have the networks to use them to their full potential. Turk outlines two key challenges faced by any rural network build-out. The first is the cost of the cell towers, specifically the software and hardware, because rural networks must inherently require a lot of towers to cover a wide area. The cost of licensing or purchasing software or hardware can be staggering. Turk suggests that projects like OpenCellular that are developing open source software can help bring down those costs. More critically, cell towers require power. Traditionally, a cell tower receives power through the grid or, often in cases of emergency, diesel generators. Of course, building out power grid infrastructures is just as expensive as building out wired communication networks. When it comes to refilling diesel generators, well, you can imagine how time-consuming it would be to regularly drive out and refill generators in person. If you want to move into rural areas, you really have to have a completely lights off the grid solution, says Turk. That means no grid connections and no regular maintenance visits to the cell sites to cut down on installation and maintenance costs. Turk says Clear Blue PowerTech makes it possible for a cell site to be installed for about $10,000, that's US, whereas traditional installation can start at between $30,000 and $50,000 per site. Clear Blue was selected by the Telecom Infra project to supply tech for off-grid cell towers. The Telecom Infra project is a collaborative effort by companies to expand telecom network infrastructure with the stated goal of bringing the next billion people online. For those currently living in places without a grid, something like Clear Blue tech is essential. Clear Blue provides power to cell sites through solar, but Turk says it's more than just plugging some solar panels into a cell tower and calling it a day. If you're solar, it has to work through weather. She says lights out, off-grid cell towers require energy forecasting to ensure that services doesn't drop. Towers require doesn't drop overnight or during a string of cloudy days. Turk compares it to driving an electrical car between two cities with no charging stations in between. You want to make sure you have enough juice to make it to the other side. The sites is to be started will conduct energy forecasts on site using data analytics and weather forecasts to determine energy usage. The sites will also report data back to Clear Blue's cloud so that the company can refine energy forecasts using aggregate data. The initial rollouts have been delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic, but Turk is confident that they still have their goal of installing at least 500 sites by the end of the year. As Turk points out, it almost expected the projects in Africa get delayed because of some unforeseen hiccup. As the saying goes, this is Africa.